Welcome to our final part 6 of this journey through the 6 Miracles of Calvary. And so we go now from Good Friday to Easter morning. And this is the account from John's Gospel. Each of the Gospels has a slightly different group of people who went on that first Easter morning. But it's only John that records about what was seen inside the tomb as far as the grave clothes are concerned. And here it is highlighted. He saw the linen cloth lying there, and the cloth which had been around Jesus' head was not lying with the linen cloths, but was rolled up by itself. Then the other disciple who had reached the tomb first also went in. He saw and believed. I want to read you the actual literal translation from the Greek of verse 6. Comes therefore also Simon Peter following him, and entered into the tomb, and he beholds the sheets lying, and the kerchief which was on the head of him, not with the sheets, lying but apart, having been wrapped up in one place. Lying apart, having been wrapped up in one place. We'll hold on to that for a moment. The sequence that we have is this: that Mary visits the tomb while it's still dark, and she sees the stone removed. She's worried as she goes to the tomb who's going to roll the stone away. Now, mark that Mary was a witness to the burial of Jesus, so she knew which was the tomb. Mary runs back and reports to the disciples, and then Peter and the other disciple then race off, and the Bible says that the other disciple got there first, which implies that he was fitter than Peter, and I think it implies that he was a younger man. So does that fit John, who was the youngest of the disciples? And the other disciple, was it John, was the first to reach the tomb. He looked in but didn't go in. And then the next remark in verse 6 and 7 are about the linen wrappings. So the other disciple must have gone in again. He saw and believed. What did he see, and why did he believe? And verse 9, they didn't understand the scriptures saying that he would rise again. So what is the significance of verse 8? And what do the disciples see and believe? Well, we just need to go back slightly and just answer some questions that have been brought up throughout history as alternative ideas to Jesus' actual resurrection. But anyone who seeks to refute them has to answer these questions. First of all, who did move the stone? It was sealed by the servants of the high priest so that if it was interfered with, people would know. A guard was put on the tomb because they were afraid that the body would be stolen and resurrection claims made. So, who moved the stone, and why did they do it, and who overcame the guards? So, if the body was stolen by the disciples, because the tomb was obviously empty and hidden, why were they such changed people? If they knew that Jesus' body was buried, hidden away somewhere else, decomposing, would they have been the disciples that went out on the day of Pentecost and proclaimed that Jesus was alive? And would all the stories of who'd met him, could they really have lasted all this time and changed the world in such an amazing way? Well, if the body was stolen by the Jewish officials, When the rumours started to go around that Jesus was alive, why didn't they produce it? But they didn't. And how do we answer Paul when he says in 1 Corinthians verse 6 that over 500 people saw him after his resurrection? That's not just a small group of disciples, that's an awful lot of people. If in a court of law 500 people testified to an event, nobody would doubt it at all. And 6, who would leave grave clothes behind when stealing a body? Well, first of all, who would steal a body anyway? Yes, in the 19th century, the resurrectionists did steal bodies so that they could sell them to medical students for dissection as part of their training. But this sort of thing wasn't going on in Jesus' day. Bodies were very quickly decomposed. So if you wanted to steal a body anyway, you wouldn't unwrap it first, would you? And then steal the body. You'd steal it wrapped as it was. So there's something important about the description of these grave clothes. So, what is the significance? He saw the linen cloths lying there, and the cloth which had been around Jesus' head, it was not lying with the linen cloth, but was rolled up by itself, or folded by itself, as the original Greek says. Then the other disciple who had reached the tomb first also went in, he saw and believed. So these are the questions we're answering. Well, the significance of the grave clothes. It's curious, but it's important. And was certainly important to the eyewitnesses. So from the description, it's as if the body of Jesus had dematerialized. We can imagine the cloths gently collapsing as the body left. Think about it in terms of if you put a balloon, a blown up balloon, in a pillowcase, say, and you then very slowly let the balloon down, then they would still retain some of the shape of the body that was of the balloon that was in it. And it seems to me that what they saw was the linen cloths still bearing in some way the shape of Jesus' body. In other words, the body had gone, but it had gone by no human hand. We're not sure what the effect was on Peter, but we know that the other disciples saw and believed. And who was this other disciple? Well, I think it's none other than John himself, being modest. Because after the resurrection, the body of Jesus that met with them was very different. He could say to Thomas, put your hand in the nail prints in my hands. Put your hand into my side. He ate with them, and yet he could come and go at will. Certainly something very different from Jesus in his physical body before his death on the cross. So, to conclude, though nearly always overlooked, these 6 miracles are not just incidental descriptions, but crucial witnesses to the truth of Jesus, the significance of his death, and the reality of his resurrection. For the good news is that Jesus is the first to rise, but as Paul tells us, we will follow if we put our full trust in him. And here Paul talks about the physical body being buried, corruptible, but the spiritual body being raised, incorruptible. And Paul says that the first man, Adam, was created a living being, but through sin died. But the last Adam, that is Jesus, is a life-giving spirit. Adam brought death, the new Adam brought life, and life eternal. So, great victories of the cross that seem to be part of such a significant detail, but crucial detail, as I hope you'll have seen, that the darkness was victory over Satan, the veil was victory over sin, the earthquake, victory over the fall. The open tombs was victory over physical decay. The rising of the saints was victory over physical death. And the grave clothes pointed to the resurrection of Jesus, victory over eternal death. I hope you found this series to be helpful and that it has truly blessed you, that we can trust in Jesus for life and for life to come. Thank you for sharing this journey with me. Goodbye and God bless.